Hey, friends. I had something kind of interesting pop up for me this morning as I was sitting in meditation. There was a kind of, and this is definitely evoked by the reading I've been doing recently and a kind of overall focus, I think, on how I'm using my time. And in simplest terms, I was reading a book last night on the writing of memoir, which for whatever reason is something that seems to be finding me as a genre, both in my own in my work with clients and students. That's a theme. But funny enough, it also is relevant to some of my own creative work and my own impulses to express. For whatever reason, that genre, the world of memoir is showing up for me. And something that came up in the book that I read last night, I'm reading this incredible book called I Could Tell You Stories by Patricia. And it's an exploration of different memoirs, different types of memoir, different people's memoirs, and different approaches to writing memoir. And in the introduction, she says something which sort of like hit right home for me, and also just kind of brought me right back into an affirmation of what I know to be one of the central aspects or processes or insights about any creative work. She talks about how when you write a first draft, you're kind of spilling onto the page the aspects of both what you're consciously trying to say, what you are consciously saying, and subconsciously needing to say. And so then the approach to a first draft, to reading a first draft and creating a second draft, is a true revision, and she hyphenates it as in like a revision or revisioning, a looking again, a seeing again of what you have done, with the intention of unearthing the hidden intentions. It's like like a detective. I talk about this all the time with my students and clients, that the creative process involves, I think of it sometimes as decoding our own psyche, right? Going in and figuring out what we are trying to say that we don't know we're trying to say, right? Most of us, when we approach something like writing, whether it's fiction, film, nonfiction, whatever, or composition, songwriting, it's really anything we're expressing, has an aspect to it, until we become fully realized, enlightened beings, there's an aspect to it that is about giving ourselves a reflection from our own subconscious. It's almost like, when you look in a mirror, all you see is the exterior. We see our body, we see our face, we see the surface of ourself. But when you create a creative piece, or when you write something, it's like a mirror that sees through the skin and through the body, right into the mind, right into the psyche, right into the heart, right into the soul sometimes. And it reveals what is trying to be said. And that process of going back and picking up, I think Patricia describes it sort of like a detective picking up clues as to what we're really trying to say. I think of it, I have described it as decoding or deciphering, right? We have this almost like a kind of interference pattern of conscious thought and subconscious thought. Conscious thought is moving along like this. That's what we think we're saying. Subconscious thought is constantly arising and bubbling up into the process. And there's this kind of matrix of different layers of our own psyche right there on the page. And it's not as obvious as simply interpreting the words or the sentences or the narrative. It's actually kind of like it's in the nooks and crannies. It might be in an offhand detail that we discover, oh, that is and that little detail can open up into a rabbit hole and become, oh, this is really getting to the heart of what we're saying, what we're trying to say, what we need to say. And so, and I have to say, as I look at the work that I do now and look at what I would love to do more of, there's almost nothing more thrilling than that. There's almost nothing more thrilling than working with someone, or with myself. But in the teaching work I do, I'm usually working with an individual or sometimes even a group, and traveling that terrain and deciphering or picking up the clues, however we want to think of it. It's like, because it's little moments of enlightenment. It's like moments of self-discovery. And then almost always when if we're willing to see those things, because a lot of times that stuff is buried because we are on some level subconsciously, intentionally keeping it buried. So therefore, when we do kind of rise up and allow ourselves to fully see that, there's a release of energy. It's like the contraction around that thing gets to kind of like unravel, and all of a sudden there's like this energetic release, and it feels like inspiration. I mean, that's, to me, in some ways, that's almost like the definition of inspiration, is to, when we tap into something that we need to say, and it emerges, and then it can become something that we consciously want to say, as opposed to being a subconscious need that has to interject itself into the conscious process. When we embrace that, it's like all of a sudden our creative work is powered by rocket fuel, and we've got this, we have the resources we need to just power another arc, or the next phase, or the next draft, or whatever of a piece, the next day's work sometimes. But so I've been tinkering with this in my mind, and really kind of what I think is noteworthy is that I'm not convinced that's the only definition of inspiration, because I think that there's inspiration that doesn't necessarily come from subconscious stuff, that's like from a locked up subconscious place. I think sometimes it comes from a once we open that channel, information can come in from outside. But there's a kind of internal desire to express that we can affirm and all of a sudden be empowered by in a huge way if we understand that that's what we're doing. If we understand that what we're saying right now is not, this is what I'm saying, it's a discovery. We're giving ourselves a mystery to solve. Every written work is a mystery that the writer has solved. Again, until we're at a level where our subconscious is our conscious and there's no real split. But that notion that this is a mystery to be solved helps us assume a posture of consistent curiosity and consistent discovery and consistent play that I think can be a great place to come from in our writing work. So yeah, that's kind of what coalesced this morning. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate you. Have a lovely, lovely day. I'll see you soon.